What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Schenk, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Brad Lambert. Brad was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so there's no surprise why he got into the sports industry after graduating from North Carolina State University. Brad followed his passion from the Steelers and all things Pittsburgh and worked in the industry for almost 10 years. After working with his favorite athletes like Hines Ward, Lynn Swann, Willie Parker, top sports franchises like the Steelers, the Jets, and global brands too many to mention, he decided to follow his passion of film and entertainment. He moved to Los Angeles because he had the opportunity to work with Robert Downey Jr. After about a year with the biggest name in Hollywood, he went to Warner Brothers and managed their digital marketing campaigns for years, winning 3 CLIO Awards during his tenure. That's when he worked with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the Lego Batman movie, Kong, and so much more. And he's gone on to work with some of the top films in the industry. In 2019, he worked on the marketing campaigns for 2 of the biggest movies of all time, collaborating with Walt Disney Studios and Marvel Studios on the release of Avengers Endgame and Sony Pictures' Spider-Man Far From Home. He is currently producing multiple films and TV projects, managing talent, and speaking all over the world. Guys, you're going to love this conversation. I got introduced to Brad from Chris Van Vliet. And there are a few people that I've been able to connect with who are as heart-centered and driven as this individual. You guys are going to see what he's been able to do with the connections that he's made, how he's driven to help and give to others. And we talk a lot about the power of strong relationship building and how you're able to truly build strong friendships, all from a standpoint of giving, which you guys know is a huge thing that I speak about. I know for a fact you're going to love this episode. It's just too good. So without further ado, let's get to the episode with my friend, Brad Lambert. Brad, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man. Long time coming. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, the great, wonderful Chris Van Vliet connected us. And, he's somebody who has become a friend of mine over the last number of months. And when he says, hey, you need to have this conversation, I'm going to have that conversation. I'm so glad we're going to dive into your story, which is phenomenal. We're going to dive into how you're impacting the world in such a great way. And I'm excited to share that with my audience. But why don't we take a second right now and you tell my audience, who's Brad today? And then we're going to break down how you got there.
Brad today is a passion-driven guy. He's the same guy he was in middle school, high school, college. He may be at a different level in life than where he was at back then, but I'd like to say I'm pretty consistent, which I'm grateful for. I haven't really changed who I am. I haven't got sucked into the Hollywood nature and changing and becoming a douchebag. But yeah, I'd like to think I'm still the blue collar guy from Pittsburgh who leads with kindness and is driven by his passions.
Yeah, PA represent, right? So you talk about being passion driven and grateful and all these things, and it's obviously something that started at a young age. Where did that come from? I think that's something that was it innate, or was it learned from a parent or a loved one, or how did you really begin to live that type of life?
I think my mom had such a massive impact on just kind of getting my mind right, and just how I was raised. And, she always used to say, could always be worse. Could always be worse. And, it's true. It could always be worse. So that's something that stuck with me from the very beginning. So that's where that gratitude angle comes in play. And I think, living life and learning as you go comes, you learn a lot with that. And on my end, when you experience tremendous highs and devastating lows, really gives you a nice balance, and you kind of see that it can be worse, and there's also a lot of good out there. So I I think when you put good out into the world, you get a lot of good back. So that's why I try to continue to maintain that and just, spread good vibes and positivity and kindness.
Yeah, man, I love it. And obviously you've done some really cool stuff, and we haven't gotten into that yet. And I want to dive in a little bit of your past, or your path, I should say. So you started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and now you're out in LA and Hollywood, living the high life, right? If anybody Googles you, one of the first photos that comes up is you standing next to Robert Downey Jr. I'm also throwing this out there. You could be a stunt double.
Hey,
you know oddly what? Look like him.
That is the greatest compliment I get out here, and I'll take it every day of the week. When I worked with Robert, you would see us in the office at the same times, and even his team that's been around him for a lot longer than I have, says that, and it's a great compliment, and I'll take it.
I love it. It's so true. I was like, are these guys like? It's like his doppelganger, and yet they're working together.
Look, I'm ready. I'm ready for the biopic. I'm ready for the reboot. Just give me a call.
I love it. So, I love the story of how you started, though, right? And then obviously the pivot in your business and kind of where you went. But you started in the sports world because it was something you're passionate about. Like, you got up from your chair before I hit record, and I saw your terrible towel on your chair and all that stuff.
That's right. But hold on, let me grab it. There it is. Always within reach.
I love it, dude. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about how you turned your passion into a business. Like, what was that trajectory like? Because there's so many people growing up that at a young age, like, I'm passionate about this. But then, like the world shows them to do, they go into college and their passion falls by the wayside, and they kind of give up hope, and they follow all the steps. Like, how were you able to take the thing you were in love with and make that your life?
I think I've had a good understanding that we have a very finite amount of time on this planet. And, for me, I want to chase what lights my soul on fire. I want to be around people that make me happy. I want to be doing things that make me happy. So for me, I wanted to find a way to, one, monetize my passions, but more importantly, add value in and around those passions. And if you're able to consistently add value in and around your passions, the money just appears. Like you don't have to force it. So for me, that's been something where it's like, I'm passionate about sports. I'm passionate about the Steelers, the Penguins, whatnot. So I have to find ways to add value around those things. So for me, in high school, it was connecting with the players, helping them, teaching them about social media, and then getting them set up on social media, shooting content for them. That was when Facebook first started, essentially. So none of these guys knew what it was. Nobody knew how to set up official pages and things of that nature. So for me, it was all about like, I can do this. I'm a savvy social media marketing guy, so I can come in there and kind of establish, obviously, that value, right? I'm not coming in like, hey guys, give me money. It's like, hey, let me show you how this works. And then good things come from that. So it's always a value proposition. It's never, I need something first. It's always, I'm going to overwhelm you with value and kindness to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, like, you don't lose situations like that. And I think a lot of people do the reverse, and they want to come in out of the gate like, where's my check? Yeah. And yeah, that's great. But at the same time, once you put money first, that is it. That's where the relationship will always stem. That's where it starts. But if you start a relationship first, the money never becomes a serious issue. They always like, you know what, Justin, that guy, he's always about the relationship first. He's never up my ass about money. He's not being a jerk about money. It's always the relationship and making sure we're good and the work's good. And then the money is the easy part. Yeah. If you're able to do that, good things happen. And from an early age, I focused on the relationships. And to this day, I focus on the relationships because, in my younger days, I would say, oh, networking. And I hate that term now because it has very ulterior motives, if you will, where it, negative connotations, where people are running around networking and collecting people like Pokemon cards. And it's wrong. And it's not genuine or authentic, and it shows in a lot of people, especially in this industry, where, oh, I know so and so and this and that and the other, and it's like all you do is call them when you need something. And nobody wants that. No one wants to be that guy or that person that is used and abused for a contact purpose. So for me, it's all about the relationships. It's establishing a personal relationship, a strong one, an authentic one at that. And then with that, business can either come from it or not. But either way, you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're the person like, oh, I'm going to create a genuine relationship with you, and then the business doesn't come, and you're like, forget you, I'm out. That wasn't a genuine relationship to begin with. And I will always say, as long as you have a good relationship with someone, there could always be potential for business. It may not happen immediately. It might happen 20 years down the road. So why would you risk sabotaging it because it doesn't happen on your timetable, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are impatient and they want that quick fix and they want it to happen overnight. I'm sure we all would love that, right? But it doesn't work like that. And especially the higher you go and the classes of people and the success of people, it takes time to build that relationship, that trust. And you have to be patient and you can't force it. You have to be in front of them consistently, but not at an annoying level, but just as a reminder, like, look, I know you got thousands of other people in your ecosystem, but here I am. I'm still here and I'm still providing value. So that's something where, early on in the sports industry, that's how I got in. I didn't work for anyone. I was self-employed. I was doing my own thing. And
that was out of high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. End of high school, early college, I was working with my athletes on the Steelers. I've been around the team since like 2005, 2006, and I never worked with the Steelers. It was always with the players directly. Right. And that's something that, is unique in and of itself. But once you have good relationships with guys on the team, they introduce you to other players on the team, and it just continues. Like each year I get introduced to the rookie class, so I get in with the new guys, and that's gratifying to me because now I'm 31 and I'm older than most of the guys on the team, and I can kind of be I want to be someone that they can rely on for anything, advice, business, personal, I need a friend kind of stuff, like. And that's what I love so much about what I do with the athletes is, we can hop on the sticks and play Call of Duty together and just have a good time, or we can talk business and help them establish their brand or get them opportunities and just be there for them. And it's never asking, like everybody else, I need autographs, I need pictures, I need this, I need that. It's always just like, recently I did a really awesome collab with Robert Downey Jr. and Cam Hayward. And Cam was a big fan, and I was able to connect the two. And Cam got him a jersey, and Downey sent him an Infinity Gauntlet that he signed. So
that's cool.
That went pretty viral recently on social media. Downey's mom is just from outside Pittsburgh, so he's a Steeler fan, which obviously, what more could you want? The collaboration we all wanted and didn't know it. But yeah, so it's something that, just constantly, if you can do something nice for somebody else, do it. And then, after the sports industry, I'm a simple guy. I love sports and entertainment. That's me. So I did the sports thing for a while. I loved every second of it. And I wanted to pursue my other passions for entertainment. And I had the opportunity to move out to Los Angeles to work with Downey and his incredible team. And that's something I'll forever be grateful for.
I love it, man. And we'll get into that part of the story here in a second. But part of the reason I was excited for this conversation is because of the relationship building conversation that you just talked about, right? And I've said, and anybody who's listened to this podcast for a long time, I talk all the time about, I end every conversation with, how can I help you? And it's 100%. So funny, like when I'm being interviewed on podcasts, I tell them I do that. And then at the end of our conversation, I go, let me know how I can help you. And I'm like, that just sounds like so like whatever, but it's true. And I think that when you lead with a big heart, people know. Like I can smell somebody who wants something a mile away. Even if they listen to my podcast, they know I approach things that way. Then they do the same thing for me. And you can just smell it, right? So you're obviously somebody who leads with your heart. And like, hey, I want to add value. Yeah, sure. Long term, there's always a return when you help people. That's the way the universe works. And it might not be the person you connect with. It might be the next person, or hey, they mentioned you to 3 people down the line, and all of a sudden, boom, like it works out that way. I mean, actually, a really cool example of this is a guy named Ed Milet, if you're not familiar, phenomenal podcast. And he's been on my show. And when we were chatting beforehand, there's a whole long story before this, but we ended up chatting on the phone before I ended up interviewing him about a week later. And I ended that conversation like I end everyone. It's like, honestly, let me know how I can help you. And there was just dead silence on the other end of the phone. Like, no, nothing. And I was like, what did I say? Like, what happened? I checked my phone to see if he was still there. And he goes, yeah, sorry. He's like, nobody ever asked me that. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, he goes, this sounds arrogant, but like when you reach a certain level, people stop asking, how can they help you? And they start asking, can you help me? And he's like, and he said, like, guys like him and Grant Cardone, like we make sure we tell each other we love each other all the time because we won't hear it.
Yep.
And now because of that conversation, I talk with Ed often. And so it's like this weird thing of like, yeah, it's a great connection. But it was just me being genuine, and that's the key. And that's what leads to business and so on and so forth. And I love that, man. And so obviously being keen to that at such a young age, you were able to really kind of start to achieve success at that young age and connect with some amazing people and so on and so forth. And now how do you go from the NFL guys to Robert Downey Jr.? How does that even happen? Like that's a big, like when you go, I'm going to go to Hollywood. Most people are like, I'm working with the B actors who are on the Lifetime movies, et cetera, which they're great too, by the way. But you go usually working with these B actors, but you go right to Downey Jr. Like, how does that even happen?
It's the same thing, man. I am always trying to surround myself with people who I admire and who inspire me. They all don't have to be famous people. They could just be good people. You know, they could be famous people. They could be medium people. Like it's not a status thing for me. You could be the most famous person in the world, but if you're a jackass, I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah. I want people who have good hearts and are good people and are just out there doing good in the world, right? So, you know, I connected with someone and we built this genuine relationship, funny enough, over our connection for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And one thing led to another, a door opened and this and that and the other. This guy is, to this day, I've known him for about 6 years now. He's one of my closest friends. He's basically family at this point. And he opened a door for me, like you said. And it was all from me just being me, being kind. And he's someone that has a huge heart as well. He's a giver. He's always helping and one of the most generous people. And I certainly would not be here to this day where I am without him. And that's a fact. But it just credit to him and who he is as a person. But that's how, like you said, it may not be that person, but that person introduces you to somebody else, or that person opens up a door. But it all stems from creating genuine relationships with others and putting good out. And you never know what will happen. And that's the most amazing thing about it, because at the end of the day, how you carry yourself and how you treat others is the only thing that matters. You may have all the money in the world, but if you're an asshole, that will stick with you forever. So what I tell people is you have to understand, when you're out in the world doing your thing and you're pursuing an opportunity, or you're pursuing a job or a relationship with somebody, the first thing that person's going to do is pick up the phone and say, yo, what do you know about Justin? You better hope that that person that they called, that's a mutual relationship, has something good to say about you. Yeah. Because if they don't, not only do you lose that opportunity, but you also lost that other person who's then going to relay that message across the board to everybody else. Yeah. So it is a domino effect. So that's why I always say I don't want to load the gun for someone else to shoot me with it. Meaning, I'm not going to intentionally treat you like shit. I'm not going to intentionally do wrong by you. I'm not going to sabotage you. I'm not going to be negative towards you intentionally. I am not perfect. Nobody is. I make mistakes, but it's never from a place of harm or ill will, right? So if I'm not out there actively trying to bring you down or screw you over or anything like that, you don't have anything bad to say about me. Now, you may not like me because of this t-shirt that I'm wearing, but that's your problem, right? That's not anything I did. That's your problem. So what, you're going to go around town saying you don't like me because of his t-shirt? That's not a reasonable option. Like that doesn't make any sense.
There are people that do that though, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, if I screwed someone out of $5 million, that's a thing that you can go around town and talk to people about, right?
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to, actually give a shit about how you're perceived, right? Image is reality, but image is everything, but perception is reality. If you perceive me as an asshole, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
That's fact. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter what I think. I'm the greatest. But if you, for whatever reason, think I'm an asshole, that's the reality. And I have to live with that. And I got to do something about it. So being cavalier with your reputation, like a lot of people are today, I don't give a shit. I'm cool. F everybody else who has a problem with it. That isn't going to get you places. It may get you somewhere quick, but longevity wise, your reputation is going to be in the toilet and no one's going to want to deal with you. And that's, I have no place for ego or any of that. So it's like, that's why I really try to just focus on those elements. And like you said, always give a helping hand, add value where I can, not ask for anything in return, don't expect anything in return, and just good things happen, man. And I think, once again, if you have a good reputation and people talk, that's helpful, but I wouldn't be here today if I didn't carry myself the way I have and treating others, but I also wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the help of others. And, people who say they're self-made are so full of shit, because it doesn't work like that. Everyone's where they're at because of someone else at some point. At some point in time, somebody helped you. They either opened up a door, they introduced you to someone. Yeah, like it's the facts. And a lot of people don't want to admit that because it ruins their I'm self-made, cool mentality, image, whatever. But it's just not real.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Now, obviously, look, you started with social media. Like, they didn't know how to make Facebook pages. I did, and I helped them. And then you've evolved clearly as a businessman, an entrepreneur, and you're producing films now and all this other stuff. How does one go through that progression? A lot of people get stuck in, this is working, this is successful for me. Why pivot? Why change? But obviously, you did it first by switching from the NFL or adding Hollywood to the list. And now you're into production, all these other things. What was it about that drew you in? Was it somebody saying, hey, you'd be good at this? Or were you like, I'm interested in that, let me learn it?
It's always a little bit of both, I think. But the main thing is, I don't want to miss out on opportunities. That is my biggest pet peeve in the world, missing out on opportunities. So if someone approaches me about something and they're like, hey, can you do XYZ? Even if I don't know how to do it at that second, I don't say no. I say, yeah, give me a few days. Let me look into it. Let's see what I can do. And I'll either teach myself how to do it, or I'll find someone else who can do it, and I'll be able to make that recommendation and still provide that value to that person, right? So, my mom always, I'm bringing her up again because she's amazing, but she always used to, say I was the jack of all trades and like a Swiss Army knife, because I would, whatever the situation, be able to get it done. And that is basically what a producer is whatever the task is, get it done, whatever it takes. And that's something where it's like, talent is unhappy, go deal with it. We need to raise $5 million, go get it done. And you get in that groove of just solving problems. And that's where the opportunities and the consistent work and phone calls come from, because you are that guy that solves problems and gets shit done. So I'm always trying to, once again, be around things I'm passionate about, and I'm trying to grow, because I don't want to get, complacent or stagnant in that regard. But, if you're one that's able to provide value in as many situations as possible, you're going to not only get a phone call a lot from a lot of different people, but you will also, your name will be in so many different conversations where it's like,
Right.
I was just in this meeting and your name came up. No way. I just was with him last night at this. And, and it comes like you're just always front and center. Like and what was cool is when I first got connected to like Lewis Howes and Gary Vee and Tom Bilyeu and guys like that, they all would talk and they'd be like, wait, what? Like, and that's what's cool is once you're in that space, whether it's with professional athletes or a guy like Downey or, the guys I just mentioned, front and center, man. You got to stay relevant. You got to stay front and center and make sure you're providing the necessary value. And you obviously are carrying yourself professionally and with kindness, and, good things tend to happen. But, it's something that I've always strived to really focus on and push myself to grow. I mean, one of the funniest examples is I had a friend on the East Coast who was actually my boss in high school at the movie theater that I worked at. And he's one of my closest friends to this day. And he hit me up one day and was like, hey, a friend of mine has a script, and his friend happened to be Victor Miller. He's very, low key about the name dropping, but Victor Miller was the writer and creator of Friday the 13th. Yeah. So horror legend. And he wrote this script, and he's like, he'd love to make this film. So I was like, yeah, send me the script. And I ended up checking it out, and they needed like $3 to $5 million to make the film. And I'd never raised that kind of money in my life. But instead of saying, I don't know how to do this, I was like, yeah, let me make some calls. So I made some calls. Obviously, having the name Victor Miller, that was quite the hook. And I just called the people that I knew, my relationships, not connections, my relationships. And dude, I ended up helping raise the $3 to $5 million, and we shot the film like 5 to 6 months later. And that was just from me taking the challenge and picking up the phone and trying to make it happen. And we did. And that was my, co-EP credit on that horror film. And that's what got me into this, producing world at a feature level. And that's something that, I'm trying to do more of down the road. But it's always taking those opportunities as they come to you and not being afraid of what the task may be and just trying to tackle it.
I love it. So how do you, obviously the Rolodex seems ridiculous. And I know you're not, obviously when you Google you, it's the Robert Downey Jr. thing. So it's not you name dropping when you say his, and you try not to do it so often, but I'm sure the Rolodex is incredible. How do you maintain, and I think I already know the answer, how do you maintain keeping these relationships at a healthy level? Because look, the reality is and obviously I've experienced it over the last 4.5 years as my Rolodex has grown as well. It's hard to maintain these levels of relationships at times, right? Sure. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes work, it takes all these things. And I'm talking about the people that I'm still friends with from when I was a child, like your old boss, and all the way up to people that I'm meeting now that I'm like,
you and I are very similar.
You're taking, like, and now like you're a billionaire and you're taking my phone calls. Like this is crazy. How do you maintain that? What are some things you do to make sure that these people know that you're there for them?
I'm always on the phone. Whether it's commenting on social media, shooting a DM, or it's tweeting at them, or it's sending a text or calling. I'm a very personal guy, so I want to be on the phone. So I'll FaceTime people all the time. I'll call people all the time. And then worst case, we'll text, right? That's how I like the rundown to be. It's more personal, obviously, if we're on the phone and I can see you or talk to you, things of that nature. So I will constantly try to keep in touch with all these people. Every couple of weeks, I'll just send them a text like, hey, how are you and Lisa doing? How are you and the fam? How's this and that? How's practice going? How's this? Great game Sunday. Like, it's a constant, we all have the ability to do this.
Yeah.
But what separates you and I from other people is we actually take the time to do it. We prioritize it. Right? Where other people are like, oh, I'm too busy to text back. I'm just like, no, you're not. It's not a priority for you. And that's fine. Now I know where you stand and where I stand with you. But for me, it's like, I'm always going to, like, my relationships mean everything to me. And you don't want to be the guy or the girl that doesn't talk to someone for 8 months and then slides into the DMs like, yo, what's up? Like, that's where you fall in that category of only reaching out when you need something. But if you keep a tab of checking in every couple weeks, just send a text. Hey, how are you? How long does that honestly take, Justin?
It takes 2 seconds.
That's what I'm saying. But like that makes a world of difference. And sometimes they don't respond because they're busy, and that's okay. But you at least made the effort, right?
Top of
And
mind,
then you'll text them 2 weeks later, and then they may see that or they may not. Maybe you do it a week after that, and then they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I missed the last 3 texts from you. I'm so sorry."
Cool. Yeah, and it's
Totally
so funny
fine.
too. Like I've never shared this on the podcast, but I think about times in my past when people have forgotten about the interview I'm supposed to do and they don't come on and I follow up. Actually, this is a really good example. So Zane Lamprey, who's a comedian, he had the show back. Okay, cool. You know him. So he ended up scheduling on my show. I got introduced to him, I believe, from Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef. Get introduced to Zane, and he's supposed to come on the show and he doesn't show up. And I email him. I go, "Hey man, what's going on? We're supposed to be on a call." He's like, "Oh my God, I forgot." This ended up happening 4 times, right? And usually I wouldn't allow this to happen, but he was super kind in his responses every time. And so finally, right before he emails me the day before, a couple hours before the interview actually happened, and I was like, "This guy's canceling again," right? But the email said, "All right, I'll talk to you in an hour. If you don't show up this time, I'm going to be really pissed."
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, "Okay, great." And he ended up introducing me to one of my favorite comedians who was on the show, Bert Kreischer.
Nice.
And but it was just like one of those things where like it's just about being top of mind. And sometimes when they drop the ball and they forget to reply or whatever, it works in your favor. And people think it's a bad thing. Like they get all pissed off. I'm like, look, stuff happens. Like there are times where I forget to reply. Like
100%.
even and I'm on it and I still forget to reply at times. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. Like it actually works in your favor when they don't respond. Now, a question I'm about to ask you talks about like daily things you do to ensure the success for yourself. And we'll get there in a second. But it's funny that you talk about constantly staying in touch. So one of the things that I do every single day religiously is I check in with at least one person just by saying, "Hey, how are you?" Or if you know you're going, like Justin Wren, Bellator MMA fighter after surgery, "Hey, how's the elbow? You know what I mean?"
100%.
So all these things. And it's just about, because I care. Like I want you to know that I care. And so I love that you do that, and that's how you kind of intertwine those relationship building skills into your thing. So like I said, I kind of already gave you the question. But the cool part about podcasting is you get to interview some of the most successful people in the world, however you want to define success. And so my question for you is, how do you define success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Happiness. That's what I'm striving for day in and day out. That's what I'm trying to get. Because that's the most important thing, you know. That's all that matters, period. So what I do to ensure that, I ensure that I'm doing things that make me happy, whether it's talking to people. You know, I call my mom multiple times a day. I call my grandparents multiple times a day. You know, we have finite amount of time on this planet, and so do they. So I don't want to take anything or anyone for granted. I'm a very emotional guy. You know, I text people and let them know how I feel. You know, I appreciate you. You know, you're beautiful, you're talented, you're whatever. I want to say what needs to be said, and I'm not afraid of, consequences of, oh, he's a, emotional guy. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to keep it real with you. But like, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to tell you something nice because of, mind games or whatever. So I'm constantly reaching out to people. I was thinking about my boy, Brandon Davis, yesterday. So I called him, and we didn't talk about anything of substance. It was just laughs and BS and just good vibes. And I was thinking about him last night after the call, and I threw up a story, and I was just like, just had a great chat with my boy. It's appreciation post, I'm grateful to call him a friend. And that, we all are going through it every single day, especially this year, now more than ever. So kindness and going a little bit out of your comfort zone to let people know they're seen, heard, appreciated goes a long way. And so many people take that I'm too busy, I'm too ignorant, I'm too arrogant approach, and they miss out on those opportunities. I don't want to live with regret at all. So for me, it's like, I don't care if I talked to you 20 minutes ago. If I have something to say, like, it was really great talking to you. Have an awesome week. I'm going to say it. What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they know that I appreciate them and I feel good about them. Okay. And if that text can make someone's day, right? Why wouldn't you send that text or that DM or that, make that phone call and say that? I don't want to leave anything on the table. So I'm constantly like the guy I referenced earlier who helped me get in with Downey and get that opportunity. Bro, I talk to him almost every day, but I send a gratitude appreciation text or call almost once a week. And just let him know, like, I love you, bro. Like, I wouldn't be here without you. I appreciate all you've done for me. And he sends it right back, and it's just letting people know that, especially people who do you solids, you probably shouldn't be cavalier with them because you wouldn't be where you're at without them. But also, you don't want to lose someone that has a big heart like that, not for the sake of, I'm going to miss out on stuff from them, but just in general, there are not enough people in this world that have that giving, loving heart. And if you have someone like that in your life, don't lose them, don't take it for granted, because once they're gone, they're out. And I'm sure you and we have a lot in common already. And I'm sure you've experienced that firsthand, because I know I have.
For sure.
So, for me, it's talking to the people I care about. It's making sure I'm on top of my work, which is really important to me. And I get a lot out of my purpose. It makes me happy. And obviously making others happy makes me happy. It's a big thing for me. Working on a special project right now based on that.
Nice.
And, I'd say taking time for myself to, get on Call of Duty with the boys and just have fun, or watch, some of my programs, whether it be Stranger Things or Mandalorian or one of the new films. Like, you have to take care of yourself mentally and physically. So, work out, do all those things, but happiness is it. Once that's lost, you're in trouble. So, I do strive for financial freedom, so I don't have to worry about the little things that we all deal with. And also I can take care of my family, but I'm not someone who's, trying to be Jeff Bezos and have 50 houses and shit like that. Like, I don't care. I'm not I'm not a materialistic person. I really don't care about that shit. Cause that's fleeting. It's irrelevant.
Dude, we have so much in common. Like, we talk about this stuff, and like, for me, money is just a vehicle to give more, to do more, to 100%. Be more, right? I don't care about things. When I was a kid, it was funny. Somebody asked me the other day, like, how are you not attached to things? Right? Like, there's not one thing in my life other than my girlfriend or kids and my family that I can live without, right? Or I can't live without. And so I was thinking about it. I'm like, where did this come from? This idea that, like, these things just don't matter. I don't care about the big house. I live in a decent sized house, but I don't care about the house or the cars or the whatever. And I realized when I was younger, I actually lived in 16 different houses by the time I was 16 years old. And so there was and every time we downsized. And so, like, we're getting rid of stuff. And so there's no sentimental attachment to a thing. And I think that it's helped me in my life so much because that kind of comes from the idea of giving, right? Like, I'm just going to give, I'm going to give. And that's like the crazy thing is when you can get to that place, money then chases you. Because it realizes that you are here to give, and like, hey, we want you to give. So here's some more of the whatever, right? And it's the same thing for relationships. I just love that it's all intertwined and interconnected, and I've loved this conversation, man. But like, I want to ask, because I'm curious, because of the progression in your life and how quickly it happened. Because you have to understand, you starting in 2006, I think you said 2005, 2006. That wasn't that long ago, like, at all. And so when I look at that, like, what has been your biggest surprise in your rise to where you are now?
I never expected to be out here. I don't set limits for myself, but that was never like, I never wanted to come to Hollywood and be an actor. That wasn't like, it wasn't on my schedule, but I think that's me in a nutshell. I'm very, in the moment, and I'm a passion guy. So 1 minute to the next, it's a constant, if the opportunity presents itself to move across the country and work with a guy like Robert Downey Jr., you would pack your shit and move too.
Yeah,
Like that's
for sure.
that's the reality of it. So, and that opportunity was a springboard to everything else. So, I mean, that's a business move in and of itself. So, it's just, off of what you just said, like, I love my life. I'm grateful for my life. All the fun, flashy shit I get to do is amazing. But what makes it so amazing is being able to share it with others. Whether that's, I remember the day I had lunch with my sister who works at Warner Brothers, and she's out here with me, and I had lunch with her, and I told her I was taking her to the Avengers Infinity premiere. She was going to be my date. And she almost like started crying. Like she just like couldn't believe it. And I remember her saying, "You literally could take anyone to this event." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. But out of everyone in my life that realistically I could take, because they're in LA, you will appreciate it the most." And that is all that matters to me. Like, yeah, I could have taken anybody, but I wanted, for an opportunity like that, I wanted to make sure that whoever I took appreciated the opportunity, but also me taking them. Right. And we had a blast. We had a great time. She's my best friend, and we have a blast all the time. But, and then recently I was working on the Spider-Man Far From Home campaign with Sony, and I had come in contact with a 3-time cancer survivor about a year prior. And the kid's 21 years old. He had cancer 3 times in the first 10 years of his life. Wow. True warrior. Like, he shouldn't be here, but he is. And when I asked him what got him through the darkest days of his life, he pretty much told me it was his love and passion for Spider-Man, watching the Tobey Maguire films, watching the animated series. And when you think of the grand scheme of things, right, we're talking like, you're fighting cancer not once, not twice, but 3 times in the first 10 years of your life. You're spending most of your days in a hospital. Spider-Man is what made you happy.
Yeah.
That is a wake-up call to everybody listening, because ultimately, what the hell are you complaining about, right? Honestly, what are you truly complaining about? It goes back to, it could always be worse, right?
Yeah.
So for me, hearing that, I was like, God, with the work that I do, with the relationships I have to do something for this kid. So me being a giver, and me being someone who I love surprising people with stuff and things. So I created this experience for him where I told him that he was going to get a first look at an exclusive, never before seen trailer of Spider-Man Far From Home. So I rented out this theater room, and me and my team put together this outrageous fake trailer, and we recorded the whole thing because it was a reaction video. So I had to get his reaction of seeing this exclusive, never before seen footage. And he was so excited at this opportunity to see this stuff. So, the trailer had watermarks all over it, and it looked so real.
I love it.
And about halfway through, the trailer glitches out like it broke. And he's just looking around like, what the heck is going on? And then the camera pans down to a building and me walking out of a building. Now, I'm not in the room, but now I'm on screen. I was just outside the room. I wanted him to have it to himself. So he's just like, what is happening? And I walk out. I'm like, what are you doing, man? On screen, I'm saying this. I'm like, what are you doing, man? A reaction video of footage from Spider-Man Far From Home? I was like, look, the trailers look amazing, and I cannot wait to see this movie. But we don't have time for this right now. I need you to go back to your apartment, put on that suit I told you to bring to LA, because we're going to the premiere tonight. And he just lost his shit. And screaming, crying, hysterical. I come back in the room. I'm like, what'd I miss? And he's runs down. He basically tackles me. And it was the most no one paid me to do it. No one asked me to do it. I put a shit ton amount of time into it. And it was one of the most gratifying things ever, because I get so much joy out of seeing others happy. It's insane. It's insane. And to see the impact, if you're able to impact other people in a positive way, big or small, do it. because you want to achieve true happiness. That's it. I forget who said it. Might have been Buddha, but it was like, if you want to live a happy life, live a life of service. And that is the truest, most factual statement ever, because that's, if you look at all the things that I do, from managing talent to producing to speaking, all of these things are service jobs. I'm serving others, right? And I get the most joy out of that because I'm bringing value to others. I'm bringing happiness to others. I'm bringing insight and information to others. And there's nothing better than that, because at the end of the day, we are defined by how we treat others. That's it. And that's a lot of people have a cavalier mindset and attitude, and they think their follower count or their verified badge or, the money that they make is what defines them. But it's not true. It's really not true.
Yeah. And then when you find out, people listening, I want you to understand this. People that have millions of followers, unless they're like Robert Downey Jr., probably bought them. And the people who have the verification badge probably bought it.
Yeah.
And so like, this is the ridiculousness of the internet. And we think that's like the greatest, highest status of whatever. It's funny you bring that up. I spoke at an event one time, and I get a lot more downloads on my podcast than I do follow me on Instagram. And I spoke at this event, and somebody actually had the balls to stand up and ask, I just have one question for you. Why don't you have more people follow you on Instagram? And there's like 250 people in the room. And I go, I didn't buy them like you did. And everybody just goes, oh, right. This kid's he's like, I've got 15,000 followers or whatever. And I was like, I didn't buy them like you did. And everybody just kind of blew up. But that's the reality of life, is like so much is a facade. And so if you're able to break that down and be yourself in your relationships, be yourself in every single just connection, even if it's a minute 30-second, 1 minute, 5 minute connection with somebody, are you genuine? Are you giving? Are you leading from the heart? And that is really why I've loved this conversation, man. So I wrap up every single interview with one question. But before we get there, how do people find you? How do they get a hold of you? How do they book you to speak? What's all the good stuff?
Well, you can hit me up on Instagram. That's my top platform. You can follow me at Brad R. Lambert. And then my website is www.bradralambert.com.
Awesome. Love it. So like I said, I wrap up every single interview with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Moving 3,000 miles away from my friends and family. That is without really knowing anyone, to chase my dreams. And I always say I didn't move out here to play games. That's for sure. So, it's and it'll be 6 years in February. So to see what I've done in a short amount of time out here, it's so motivating. And you can see the stuff behind me on the walls. That's not for clout or look how cool I am. That motivates the living shit out of me, dude. And that's what pushes me. And it's the experiences I have, the interactions I have, the things that I accomplish. The Avengers Endgame poster behind me right there, that was me working officially with Marvel and Disney on that campaign. And the quick story behind it, we talk a lot about failure. You're going to fail a million times in life. It's just inevitable, big, small, otherwise it's going to happen. You can't, it's just life. And, when I, after Downey, I went to Warner Brothers for a few years and worked on the marketing campaigns over there, which was a great experience. And I really loved my job. But I wanted that experience of being part of a Marvel release, to work on a campaign and produce content for that campaign and just be a small little part of a release. And man, I since moving out here, early on, the first few years, I had probably 3 jobs that I came in second place for. Runner up for the job to work on a campaign. And most people would have taken that L and given up. After the second time taking the L, okay, I'm done for real. All right, last try. All right, for real, I'm done. It's not going to happen. It's out of my hands. I'm done. I give up. But I was like, you know what? This isn't the path that I have to take to make this dream, this goal come true. So I did it my way. I created my own path, which that path was created out of value. I brought the value to Disney and Marvel. And I orchestrated the deal and the business and created that opportunity for myself. And once again, this is not, look how awesome I am. There is always a way, right? I went the traditional way of trying to get a job at Disney and Marvel to make that dream come true, right? And it didn't work out that way. But instead of giving up on my dream, I pivoted and tried a different path. And I created my own path by providing that necessary value. And then I ended up working on the biggest movie of all time, which wrapped up the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga. And that's something like, that poster's right behind me, right there, and it's signed by the entire cast. And that's something that is just like, you know, I got whatever it takes tattooed on my arm afterwards. That's a line in the movie. But it's also something that you and I have talked about this whole podcast, which is whatever it takes, get it done. Whatever it takes, make it happen. And that's something that I want to tell everyone out there. Failure's inevitable. You're going to fall down, pick yourself back up. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? So sometimes you do have to pivot and try a different angle and a different path and a different way. But just because your goal doesn't happen, that one way you try doesn't mean it's never going to happen, you know? And I think a lot of people have to understand that and not give up the thing that makes them happy, because that's all we have at the end of the day. So I just, you know, I digress a little bit, but I just want to say, like, failure is inevitable, but don't give up on what lights your soul on fire just because the path you went down initially didn't work. Create a new path, try a different angle, get it done, whatever it takes.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, Brad, for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom. And more importantly, thank you for being the person who takes the gifts that they're given and gives them to other people. Because
thanks, man.
Honestly, the world needs more of you. And I'm glad there's people out there now that can hear this conversation and they can maybe make some shifts in their life to do the same thing, man. But this is great. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.